Hey there, nation. It's me, Commander Cheapskate, and welcome to the show where we show you how to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. Once again, I am Commander Cheapskate, and this is Battle Report number 9 of the Tercio Campaigns. Once again, it is my Empire army versus the Minty Boyz of the Orcs and Goblins. So this time we get to see what happens when a highly trained army of state troops takes on a bunch of football hooligans, basically.
Crom, I've never prayed you before. I have no tongue for it. No one, not even you, will remember if we were good men or bad, why we fought, or why we died. No. All that matters is that two stood against many. That's what's important. Power pleases you, Crom. So grant me one request. Grant me revenge. And if you do not listen, then to hell with you.
Alright, in case you forgot what the purpose of these battle reports is about, this is what's called the Tercio Campaign. The idea of these series of battle reports is to determine if we can actually use a 15th century Renaissance tactic called the Tercio tactic. Basically, it revolved around one large block of pikemen, flanked on either side by handgunners, and also supported by light cavalry, as well as artillery pieces. So the concept of these battle reports is to try to take that same tactic without using any magic items, no magic whatsoever, no special characters, basically take this tactic and apply it to the world of Warhammer. So once again, there's no magic items, no special characters at all in this battle report, for my army anyways, and basically we're just fighting with guns, bullets, and balls. So let's see what happens. Alright, so let's go with the army list. First of all, this is my Imperial Tercio build. It's called the Die-Eisenkreuz and Frei Brigade. It's a 3,000 point Empire army. It's my Blades, Bullets, and Balls Brigade. Let's start off with the Lords and Hero choices. My first Lord choice is a General of the Empire. His name is Oberst Gottfried Die-Eisenkreuz. He's got full plate armor, shield, as well as a great weapon. Next comes a Captain of the Empire named Hauptmann Hans Jäger. He's equipped with full plate armor, shield, a great weapon, and a Battle Standard Bearer upgrade. My core choices this time are 2 units of 40 halberdiers with standard bearer musician, and they decided not to have any champions on this one because I want to use the points from elsewhere. The first unit of 40 halberdiers is called the Eisenblut, and the second unit of halberdiers is called the Eisenblut Zwei, which basically means the second Iron Blood. And for those guys, for that unit, all I have is a standard bearer for that unit. I then have 4 units of 20 handgunners apiece called the first Fusiliers, the second Fusiliers, the third Fusiliers, and the fourth Fusiliers. And each of those units has a marksman equipped with the Hochland long rifle. So that's the reason why I decided not to put any champions in my halberdier units, because I want to use those points for my handgunners. My special choices consist of 4 units of 10 Pistoliers, called the first Dragoner, the second Dragoner, the third Dragoner, and the fourth Dragoner, as well as 4 Great Cannons. And as you can notice this time, there's no mortar. Got rid of it. It's worthless. I didn't care for it. And rounding out my army with my rare choices are 2 Hellblaster volley guns, and that brings my army to a grand total of 3,002 points. As for the Minty Boyz, I apologize. I don't have a list for those guys. It's just really a quick pickup game real quick, so we just started playing in my place, and that's all we're really doing. So I don't have a list for him. But suffice to say, it does have 3,000 points in that army list. He also has Grimgor Ironhide, so he does have that character. I know he has like a shaman, a little force shaman, like a level 2 Night Goblin, I believe. He's got a lot of core choices in here, so well, you'll see what his army looks like in the battle report when we get to it. So yeah, once again, sorry about not having a list on this one. Alright, and that brings us to deployment. So you can see here, this is the Empire deployment on the left-hand flank. On my very far left flank, I got my first and second Dragoners, followed by a Great Cannon with a unit of 20 handgunners with a Hochland long rifle, followed by another Great Cannon, followed by a unit of 40 halberdiers with my general involved in that unit, followed by a volley gun, as well as another unit of handgunners. As you can see in this map, the map is pretty much cut in half on the battlefield because of that river, so I decided to have my forces divide evenly on either side of the river, so that way I can deal with whatever threat comes my way. So that's deployment on the left-hand flank. And this is deployment in the center part of the board. As you can see there, I got my handgunner unit on the left there, another 20-man unit of handgunners with the Hochland long rifle, followed by a volley gun, followed by my halberdier with battle standard bearer inside that unit with another 40 halberdiers. And then on the far right-hand side there, I have my other unit of 20 handgunners that are holding up against that castle wall. And then finishing the deployment on the right-hand side, I have my other 2 units of Pistoliers, the third and fourth Dragoner, as well as 2 of my cannons up there on the wall. And that finishes up deployment for the Empire. Alright, and this is deployment on the Orcs and Goblins left-hand flank. So this is the Minty Boyz' deployment. As you can see there, we have Spider Riders on the left. Those are proxied by Wolf Riders. We have another 10 Spider Riders there in the center of the picture. And on the right-hand side, we have a unit of 50 Night Goblin Archers, and they also have 3 Fanatics in that unit as well. And also on the bottom of the screen, a little bit past that accidentally got cut off, there's supposed to be a Doom Diver catapult located there. So that's the Minty Boyz' deployment. And this is deployment for the center portion. As you can see on the left-hand side, you got the unit of 40 Black Orcs with Grimgore Ironhide, I believe his name is. He's located in that unit there with the Shaman as well. There in the center of his unit, being proxied by 7 Ogre Kingdom's Ogres. Those are supposed to be River Trolls, so he has 7 River Trolls located there. On holding up his right-hand side there is a unit of 72 Night Goblin Spearmen, and they also have Fanatics in that unit as well. And as you can see in the bottom of the screen there, he also has his second Doom Diver catapult, and that is the deployment for Orcs and Goblins. And with that brings us to our Vanguard movements. As you can see there on the left-hand side, my first and second Dragoner move through the castle wall and set up a blocking position to intercept my opponent's Spider Riders. As you can see in this picture as well, my opponent sent his Spider Riders, saying to the left-hand side of my formation to take on my Pistolier unit. And in the second picture, you can see my first and second Dragoner have also moved up for a flanking position towards a big chunky unit of Night Goblins to start taking those guys out with pot shots. So that is the Vanguard movements for this round. Alright, and that brings us to Orcs and Goblins turn 1. As you can see in this picture, the Orcs and Goblins go first. So the Minty Boyz, they just send all their stuff just charging forward as quick as they possibly can. So he march moves his Night Goblins as well as his River Trolls as well as his Black Orcs right across the deployment zone straight towards me. And looking back now, I'm realizing that maybe dividing up my force this way is probably not the smartest thing to do. Maybe going with the smaller units is not such a good idea because I'm looking at the sheer bulk of those unit sizes and I'm realizing I might have some problems. So I maybe have a turn of shooting, maybe, before all those units start charging right into my lines. And so I realize now I maybe made a mistake on deployment. I should have probably scooted back a little bit further. But yeah, we'll see what happens with movement. As you can see in this picture as well, my opponent is also marching all of his other units forward as well. He sent his Night Goblin Archers right down the main fairway. I'm not so much worried about the conflict on this side of the board. I'm thinking that maybe I can easily handle these guys. I have enough troops and firepower to do that, so I'm thinking maybe what I'm going to have to do is deal with these threats on the right and then quickly go in for a flank charge on the main line on the left-hand side of the river because it's pretty heavy on that side. And that brings us to the magic phase for turn 1. As you can see there, the Orc Shaman got off Gaze of Gork, basically just magic missile. Because of the random nature of Orc and Goblin magic, though, you only able to get off 1 wound on that one, so I lose 1 handgunner out of the entire process. The rest of his magic phase is pretty much a wash because every single time he tries to cast anything on this side of the board, I pretty much shut down all the other spells that his Great Shaman on his Orcs tries to get off. Vindictive Glare, on the other hand, for the Night Goblin Shaman, though, goes off without a hitch. And so I was unable to spell that one. So he aims it right at my Hellblaster Volley Gun crew, and I expect the worst. But luckily for me, though, he only takes out 3 of my guys, so that cannon can still operate. So that is the magic phase for my opponent's turn. And that brings us to the shooting phase of the Orc and Goblin turn. As you can see in this picture, his very first Doom Diver Catapult misfires on the left-hand side. And so because of that, he has to take a roll in the random damage chart, and the misfire that pops up happening is like just absolutely hilarious on that one. His misfire ends up launching his Doom Diver Catapult at the closest unit that was towards him, which is that Spider Rider unit right there, and inflicts 3 wounds on those guys. So right off the bat, my opponent's Spider Rider is already down like a quarter of their strength due to a misfire. And to make matters worse, his Doom Diver Catapult won't be able to fire this turn either. So the situation just keeps on getting worse for his shooting phase on the right-hand side of my board. The second shot with the second Doom Diver Catapult actually does it pretty well. He opens it up on my unit of Halberdiers, and he manages to take out 5 of my guys with that. And I seriously underestimate the power of those Doom Diver Catapults. Those things are kind of scary. So now I got to figure out some way to kind of work around those because if they can inflict those kind of wounds that quickly, I'm in serious trouble if I don't do something quick about it. And with that all being said, we're now into Empire turn 1, and so since I don't believe in moving because all my handgunners couldn't shoot if that was the case, I decided to go skip magic phase because we don't believe in magic in this army. We go straight to the shooting phase, which is my favorite phase of this battle. So as you can see here in this picture, we open up on everything we have on my side of the river on the right-hand side. So both of my great cannons open up on top of the, as well as my handgunners open up with that Spider Rider unit, take out a lot of those guys. They inflict 4 wounds on that unit, so there's only 3 Spider Riders left on that one. As you can see in this picture, my other handgun unit, as well as my Hellblaster volley gun, opens up on that chunk of Night Goblins, and we inflict 22 wounds on that bad boy. And so we just chop those guys to pieces on that part. Unfortunately, on the other side, on the left-hand side, past the screen, I forgot to take a picture of that. My unit of Pistoliers, both those units open up on that unit of other 10 Spider Riders that are heading towards them, and they kill like 9 of those guys. So only one of those Wolf Riders are left. So it's absolute crossfire chaos pandemonium on this side of the board, and that is freaking awesome. As you can see in this picture, that one Wolf Rider that was remaining basically fails his panic check, and he flees off the side of the board. And as you can see on the right-hand side, that unit of Night Goblin Archers fails their panic check, and they also flee as well. Unfortunately, during this shooting phase, though, one of my great cannons on the wall ends up rolling a misfire and rolling a 1, and so it blows up and it's destroyed. So I'm kind of sad about that part. But, you know, that's just the risk you run when you run great cannons. So shooting on this side of the board, awesome. Alright, and the shooting phase on this side of the table actually ends up being awesome. So you can see in this picture two of my cannons, my unit of handgunners, as well as 2 units of Pistoliers open up in that big chunk of Night Goblin Spearmen that are in that group, and we inflict 13 wounds on that unit and take out 13 of those guys. So shooting was pretty significant on that unit of Night Goblin Spearmen. On this picture, my 2 units of handgunners straddling either side of that river open up on that unit of Orcs, and they inflict 14 wounds on that bad boy. So luckily for me, I'm rolling really high on this one for the hit, and I'm rolling excellent when it comes to my wounds. So I kill 14 of those Black Orcs with those 2 handgunner units, and right now I'm just loving the shooting phase on this one. And the best part is I still have my Hellblaster volley gun right there to shoot next, and that's what we're going to go show next. And as you can see in this one, my Hellblaster volley gun just swings with the fences on this bad boy. We got off something like 15 shots on this, and when we rolled a hit, I caused basically 11 wounds on that one. So basically, I have now shrunken that huge chunk of Black Orc monstrosity down to like a fourth of its size. I killed 3/4 of those guys, and I just utterly destroyed that unit with handgun fire as well as Hellblaster volley gun fire. So I'm really liking the idea of the Tercio build in terms of just sheer firepower, just uploading on those Black Orcs. So that was pretty amazing on that part. Looking back now, I probably should have opened up on those trolls as well, but I wasn't really worried about the trolls too much. But I was really worried about that Black Orc unit, so that's where I concentrated most of my fire on. But yeah, that's pretty much shooting for this phase. Unfortunately, Grimgor Ironhide and his Black Orcs pass for leadership test, so they don't flee at all. So that wraps up my turn for this turn of the Empire turns. So this is a picture of the top of turn 2 on the right-hand side of the board. You can see there, most of my units are relatively untouched on my side, so that's pretty good. My opponent, on the other hand, most of his forces are fleeing, except for that unit of 3 Spider Riders which are in the middle, so things are going really, really well on this side of the board. As you can see on the top of turn 2 on the left-hand side of the board, the Black Orc unit is basically down to 1/4 of its strength, while I've taken out about 1/4 of the Night Goblin Spearmen up in the top there. But that unit of River Trolls right in the center, they're still doing pretty good. As you can see, the only damage I've sustained is about 5 Halberdiers, so things are looking pretty good at the top of round 2. Alright, and that brings to the top of Orcs and Goblins turn 2. As you can see on the left-hand side, the Night Goblins trying to charge the very front unit of the Pistoliers, the second Dragoner, but I did flee as a charge reaction, so because of that, the Night Goblin Spearmen fail their charge. On the center, though, the River Trolls, though, they make their charge just fine against my Halberdier unit. And the other unit of Orcs and Goblins on the Black Orc side there, they try to charge into my handgunners as well, but they also fail their charge. So movement's doing pretty good on this side. I had to deal with hand-to-hand combat with my Halberdier unit, which is kind of sad. But I'm thinking my Pistoliers and my Riflemen, as well as my Hellblaster volley gun, have another turn of shooting at that Black Orc regiment. So that's kind of the plus side on this. So that's moving on this picture. As you can see in this picture, the Night Goblin Archers rally, so they turn around and face my opponent, face me again, so they kind of rally around. That one Wolf Rider by itself, it actually rolled Snake Eyes for its leadership turn, so it's turning around and also facing it as well. And that unit of 3 Spider Riders decided to go for broke and charge right into the midst of my Pistoliers, and they attack the 3rd Dragoner in that picture. So that is movement phase for Orcs and Goblins. And that brings us to close combat for the Orcs and Goblins. And as you can see in this picture with the River Trolls fighting my Halberdiers, I should have concentrated a lot more of my fire on those River Trolls. I did not expect it to be this difficult. One of the problems I was having is that Trolls, not only do they have a very high toughness and my troops have a low strength, even at strength 4, the Trolls are still tougher. And not to mention, they also have that regen save as well. And since I don't have any fiery attacks because I don't believe in magical weapons or spells in this unit, Close combat is very, very difficult for me on this one. So as you can see, I inflict 4 wounds on the trolls, but they also inflict 8 wounds on me. So already I'm starting to lose stuff, losing quite a bit of my troops. The only thing that really saved me on this from breaking was the fact that I was steadfast, because I had more ranks than my opponent, and plus I had hold the line special rule with my generals. So that was the only reason why these guys managed to stay put. But man, totally should have concentrated a lot more fire on those river trolls. Did not think them to be such the serious threat that they were. And I'm starting to realize that maybe having a unit of 40 halberdiers was not such a good idea. Maybe I should have kept it with the full 80. But, live and learn. And that brings us to Empire turn 2. So you can see in this picture, I decided to send my other unit of Pistoliers to charge into the flank of that unit of Spider Riders there. I also realized later on that I might have set myself up for failure, because that one lone Wolf Rider, which is supposed to be a Spider Rider proxy, could charge into my flank and actually cancel my bonus. But, hindsight and all. And on this picture, I decided to have my handgunners charge into the flank of that River Troll unit. Luckily for me, though, they did make that charge distance, so now I'm giving a little bit extra support for my Halberdier unit against the River Trolls that are slowly mauling them to pieces. So I'm doing that, and as you can see in this picture too, my Pistolier unit also rallies on this side of the board. Now, realizing how much of a mistake I made, again, leaving my troops kind of like divided in half like this, I decided to march my Halberdier unit around. So basically, I do one giant wheel type of turn with that entire formation, march it forward. So I'm kind of stuck on the riverbank. But what I might be able to do next turn is be able to get a nice kind of flank charge on those Black Orcs. And if I can overrun those Black Orcs, I might be able to charge into the flank of that River Troll unit, and be able to save my general's unit from being destroyed by those River Trolls. So that is movement on this side of the board. And in this picture is a combination of both the shooting phase and the combat phase. So I forgot to take the pictures of the shooting phase, so we're going to talk about that real quick on this one. On the shooting phase, my Pistolier units open up on the unit of Night Goblins and inflict 11 wounds on that unit. So that caused that unit to fail its panic test and also to flee yet again. So that takes place. And on the right-hand side of this picture, my handgunners as well as my Hellblaster volley gun open up at almost point-blank range on that unit of Black Orcs. And for the first time ever, my one Hawkland Long Rifle guy in that unit actually succeeds in sniping at Grimgore Ironheart, so he actually inflicts a wound, which is kind of cool. So that guy's already down by 1 wound due to sniper fire. And I destroyed that Black Orc unit by killing 10 more of those guys. Unfortunately, they passed their panic test, so those Black Orcs will be in my grill next round when they charge into me. As for the combat phase in this center portion, as you can see here, combat is just kind of brutal in this one. I inflict 7 wounds total against the trolls, so I kill about 2 of them and leave 1 more with a wound left over on it, but the resulting counterattacks was brutal. I mean, my Halberdier unit takes another 5 more wounds, and I take 3 wounds on my handgunner unit due to that one troll there on the left-hand side of that unit. So that guy attacks the flanking units. So even with like 2 units attacking this unit of trolls, man, these guys are just targeting my guys, and I'm just not getting the wounds like I need to just because of low strength values. So that's combat on this side of the board. And combat is pretty much a joke on this side. I destroyed those 3 Spider Riders with my 2 Pistolier units. Unfortunately, though, I do lose 1 Pistolier in the combat, but that's not such a big deal because now we got to deal with that one lone Spider Rider coming at us, and I'm liking my odds. So that pretty much sums up the turn 2 for the Empire. Alright, so this is the top of turn 3, so you can pretty much see on the right-hand side of the board, my units are largely intact. I still got both my handgunner units left. I also still have my unit of Halberdiers trying to get across that river to do a flank charge to help support out my troops on the left-hand side. As you can see, we got that lone Spider Rider left on the board, as well as the remnants of that Night Goblin Archer unit still trying to make its way back across that long field of fire towards my troops. So I'm liking my odds on this side of the board. As you can see on this part of the board, I still got my Pistoliers are dealing with that Night Goblin Spearman unit pretty good. I think if I just keep on taking pot shots of those guys and causing them to panic and flee, that unit will probably much be combat ineffective for the rest of the game. The real main concern I have, though, however, is that unit of River Trolls right there in the middle. Even with 2 units attacking at the same time, that unit of River Trolls is inflicting a lot of casualties on my guys, so still kind of worried about them. I'm also slightly worried about that unit of Black Orcs that would be charging into my handgunners next round. Black Orcs are a beast at close combat, and my guys have no armor whatsoever. They're just handgunners, so we'll see what happens with that one. And as you can see there on the right-hand side there of the screen, you can see my Halberdier unit getting ready to charge in to help save that unit. And that brings us to the top of Orcs and Goblin turn 3. As you can see, those Night Goblins actually flee again, so they fail their panic tests and flee all even further back into the back, as you can see there in that photo. The River Trolls are still engaged in close combat with my 2 center units there on this side of the board. As you can see, that unit of Black Orcs successfully charges into my handgunner unit, so my handgunners will have to be dealing with close combat this turn. And this side of the board, the unit of Night Goblins actually rallies and actually marches forward again in order to engage in close combat. They move up 4 inches towards my halberdiers, and that's where basically the fanatics are going to start popping out. He announced that he has fanatics in that unit, and then I realized that maybe my support attack might fall apart because fanatics are a beast, and if they tear through your units, they are like a meat grinder. So let's see what happens on that one. The fanatics are released, but we also got to forget that that unit of halberdiers is also on a river, and the rules state for Orc and Goblin fanatics that if they run into any kind of terrain whatsoever, they are automatically destroyed. So it was kind of like a bittersweet moment for me because on one hand it was kind of funny because those fanatics, which I was kind of dreading, did nothing because they drowned basically in the river before they can touch my halberdiers. But it's also kind of sad too because my friend the Minty Boyz, I mean, they just looked at it and they're like, "What? Are you kidding me?" So they finally get into grips to unleash some fanatic destruction. And those fanatics are drowned in the river, so I thought that was kind of funny. But so yeah, that's the situation with fanatics in this picture. And that brings us to Orcs and Goblins shooting phase. Because the Night Goblins marched, they were not able to open up with their short bows on this one, but it was more like kind of like the revenge of the Doomdiver catapults. Both Doomdiver catapults opened up on my units on this one. So as you can see there, those yellow poker chips. My halberdier unit gets hit by a Doomdiver and flukes 3 wounds on that unit, and another Doomdiver hits my unit of handgunners down the bottom of the screen and inflicts 1 wound. So could have been worse. So I'm not gonna complain about the wounds I'm taking so far. So far so good. In the combat phase, however, combat phase is just brutal on this side of the board. As you can see, I inflict only 1 wound on the trolls. I mean, those dang regeneration saves are like saving these guys like it's nobody's business. So because of that, I basically just only caused 1 wound on that unit of trolls. They, on the other hand, inflict 4 more wounds on my halberdier unit, so there's 4 more guys. I also lose another guy on my rifleman on my handgunner unit on the left-hand side there. So luckily, the only thing that's saving me is holding the line and being steadfast at this point. No, not even steadfast. I don't think I'm steadfast anymore. So yeah, the only thing that's saving me is hold the line. So that's the only reason why I haven't broken this part. And as you can see in the photo on the right-hand side, those Black Orcs cause 6 wounds on my handgunner unit, and it's absolutely terrifying what Black Orcs can do in close combat, even if there's only 3 of them left. I mean, Grimgor Ironhide, oh my god, that guy just slices dudes like it's nobody's business. So combat didn't go so well on this side of the board for me. And just to prove how bad close combat is for my guys, my handgunners break and they flee as well. Grimgor Ironhide and his men fail their pursuit check. Originally, the Minty Boyz wanted to keep their guys back and actually assault my Hellblaster volley gun if they could, but they failed their pursuit check, and so they had to go chase him down. Luckily for him, though, he did overrun my handgunners, and so he destroyed those guys. That was kind of sad, but you know, that's just the way warfare goes, I suppose. So I'm kind of sad that my handgunners died, but at the same time, I'm kind of glad that Grimgor Ironhide just ran past my units. On the flip side, though, it could be bad because now I can set him up for a perfect rear charge against my halberdiers or against my Hellblaster volley gun. So I got to do some hustling here in a little bit in order to stop that from happening. And on the right-hand side of the board, my 2 pistoliers was that lone spider rider. That guy just died. He tried to go in and try to fight, but he got destroyed and got killed. And so that's pretty much combat on this one. So the most unamazing combat so far in this game. So what I got to do now is take all my units on my right-hand side and try to flee them over to the left-hand side of the board in order to save my units from being destroyed. And with that, that brings us to the top of turn 3 for the Empire. So you can see on the left-hand side, my unit of unit of pistoliers, the first Dragoner, pursues after that fleeing unit of Night Goblin Spearmen and actually catches up to him, and they utterly destroy that unit of Night Goblin Spearmen. So those guys are now off of the board. On my right hand, my next unit, the second Dragoner, I decided to try and attempt a rear charge on those River Trolls, and I was within distance. I had a good angle on it, so we rolled off, and so now I have that River Troll unit basically fully enveloped now on 3 different sides. As you can see in the center, instead of sending my halberdiers to deal with the trolls, I decided to send them another full 90 degrees in order to intercept whatever Grimgor Ironhide guys are going to plan on doing. And on the right-hand side, I decided to march my 2 units of pistoliers to deal with that unit of Night Goblin archers that are stuck on the river there. And I leave my handgunners and my Hellblaster volley gun where they're already open to prepare to open fire on that Night Goblin unit. So that's moving on this phase. And since my army doesn't believe in using magic, we decided to go right into the shooting phase. You can see in this picture my cannon as well as my Hellblaster volley gun open up on that unit of Black Orcs with Grimcore Ironheart, and we basically just wiped that unit out. Basically what happens is my Hellblaster volley gun kills the remainder of his Black Orcs, leaving Grimcore by himself, and then one cannon ball shot hits him right dead center into Grimcore Ironhide, and he's killed with like 6 different wounds. So that unit is now utterly destroyed. So bam, enemy's general is now dead. And in this picture, the Night Goblins and the Stuck on the River, my 2 units of Pistoliers open up on that unit of Night Goblins, and they inflict 7 more wounds on those guys. So, unfortunately for me, though, that unit decided to stick it out. They passed a panic check, so no panicking for those guys. So those guys will still be a thorn in my side, but I'm slowly whittling those guys away. And it looks like 3 units was what it took to destroy this unit, with my Pistoliers, my Handgunners, as well as my unit of Halberdiers all attacking at this unit at the same time. We managed to destroy this unit. So luckily for me, that unit of Trolls is now dead. And at this point, between you, me, and the game, we basically know that we have this game in the bag. But my buddy still has 1 unit left on the field, so he doesn't want to give up because he still has troops on the battlefield. So that is the end of Empire turn number 3, and it's pretty fantastic. Feeling pretty good on this. And that brings us to the top of Orcs and Goblins turn 4. Since most of his stuff is pretty much destroyed, all he really can do left is the Minty Boys decide to open up with their Night Goblin archers on my unit of Halberdiers, whose back is turned to them, and in a true Gobbo fashion, they decide to go for the shooting in the back. And actually must have worked out pretty well for them because they inflicted 9 wounds on my unit of Halberdiers, so I lose 9 guys in that formation. Luckily for me, though, I passed my panic check, so that unit doesn't go anywhere. So that's Orcs and Goblins in turn 4, which is pretty Orcs and Goblinly of my opponent. I mean, that's like typical Goblin methodology, stab him in the back type of tactic, and it actually was kind of cool. So there's that. And that takes to the top of Empire turn number 4, and this is our movement phase. And this looks like something from like a cartoon or something, because you can see basically I just turned all my units towards that Night Goblin unit, and we just kind of swarmed them. So as you can see, that poor unit of Night Goblins is flanked on either side by my units of Pistoliers. They have my 2 units of Halberdiers coming out the front. They have that unit of Handgunners and Hellblaster volley guns staring at them. And these poor guys, they're completely surrounded by 360 degrees of just pain. I mean, so yeah. So that's movement phase for this turn. And this is basically where I have my like 300 style moment, where all my units just open up on that poor unit of Night Goblins, and we just blow that unit to Kingdom Come. And so my Hellblaster volley gun, my Handgunners, my Pistolier unit just open up on that thing, and that unit is destroyed. And that pretty much brings us to the end of the game. So yeah, that is it. So good times for the Empire.
Sure, I could have stayed in the past. Could have even been king. But in my own way, I am king. Hail to the king, baby.
Alright, so this is the portion of the battle report where we have our after action report, and that's where basically we talk about the things that went well, that went poorly in this battle report, and how to prepare ourselves for the next time. So this is the after action report for battle report number 9 of the Tercio campaigns, with me, Commander Cheapskate of the Empire, versus the Minty Boys of the Orcs and Goblins, and this one ended up being a victory for yours truly. So basically what kind of contributed to my victory is just one word: firepower. Actually, now I think about it, it's actually 2 words: fire and power. So yeah, but anyways, you get the point. It's basically firepower. That's all you need to do to be successful in Warhammer, is need to have gunpowder. That's all you need. You don't need magic. You don't need special characters. You don't need magical items. All you need is a good set of handguns, and as well as cannons and Hellblaster volley guns. Man, my firepower totally tore it up in this battle, so I'm really, really proud of my handgunners as well as the artillery pieces, and I'm so glad I got rid of the motor and use those points for the Hawk and Long rifles as well. And another thing is Pistoliers, man. Pistoliers are still the best. I can see why they are a special choice. I mean, those guys can really throw it out if they need to. I mean, those guys are pumping out 20 rounds, 20 shots for every single time they do a long-range shooting with somebody. Granted, it's pistols, so you need to be within 6 inches to do it. But man, when it works, man, it really tears units apart. So nothing but love for the Pistoliers on that one. I'm not so sure about the smaller units. I might have to go back to using large brigade troops again. I mean, that unit of 40 Halberdiers, my general, almost collapsed from the weight of the trolls that got sent at them. So I'm thinking about going back to that huge block of 80 Halberdiers. I mean, it's worked for me up to this point, so I think I might just stick with it. Still need to deal with magic. I mean, granted, magic wasn't such a big factor in this battle, but still having my opponents able to cast spells is still kind of a downer for me. So I'm thinking maybe I might need more Hawkwind long rifles, just take those guys out and to snipe at them. So we'll see what happens on that one. So yeah, that pretty much rounds it up for this battle report. So battle report number 9 is pretty much done. So yeah, stick around and see what happens next. Bye.